I had just come home from a long, exhausting day. The house was quiet, sunlight streaming through the half-open blinds, painting soft golden lines across the living room floor. I was supposed to get ready for my sister's birthday dinner, and in my rush, I tossed my bag on the couch and headed straight to my room. I had bought a new outfit, a soft pastel mini skirt that I'd been hesitant to wear. It was different from my usual style, a little bold, a little playful. For once, I wanted to feel lighthearted again, like the younger version of myself who didn't guess every choice. As I stood before the mirror, adjusting the hem and smoothing the fabric over my thighs, a quiet unease fluttered in my chest. I wasn't used to seeing myself like this anymore, confident, maybe even radiant. Years of working, caretaking, and surviving had dulled that side of me. I smiled faintly at my reflection, half proud, half embarrassed by my own hesitation. Just then, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I assumed it was my sister calling me to hurry up, so I didn't bother closing the door fully. I leaned forward to fix my makeup when the door creaked open, and before I could react, my nephew Ethan froze at the doorway. He was 16, awkward, tall, still trying to grow into his limbs, and his eyes went wide as he realized where he was. The shock on his face mirrored my own. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Neither of us spoke. His hand gripped the door handle, knuckles white, and I could see the instant regret wash over him. My heart pounded as a wave of heat rose to my cheeks. "Ethan, wait," I said quickly, pulling at the hem of my skirt instinctively. He stammered an apology, his voice breaking with panic. I didn't know you were here. Mom said to check if you were ready," and then he turned to leave, but something in his trembling voice made me pause. He wasn't just embarrassed, he looked scared. I realized then that he thought he had done something terribly wrong. I stepped forward, gently calling his name. He stopped but didn't turn around. "It's okay," I said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong." My words trembled as I said them, partly from the adrenaline, partly from a flood of emotions I didn't expect. There was something oddly fragile about that moment. Two people standing in a thin space between innocence and misunderstanding. He nodded without looking back and muttered another apology before slipping out the door. I sat down on the edge of my bed, staring at the half-open door, the air thick with silence. My reflection in the mirror felt foreign now. The same skirt that had made me feel bold just minutes ago suddenly felt like a mistake. I looked down at the floor, my heart still racing, and whispered to myself, what just happened? Dinner that evening felt heavier than it should have. The chatter around the table was lively, my sister laughing, the clinking of cutlery, the sound of Ethan's cousins teasing him about his haircut. But all I could focus on was his silence. He barely looked up from his plate. Every time our eyes met, he'd glance away quickly, his jaw tightening, his face flushed with discomfort. I tried to act normal, smiling when spoken to, sipping my drink slowly, pretending nothing was wrong. But under the table, my fingers twisted together, restless, uneasy. That small, awkward moment from earlier had built a wall between us, one made of embarrassment and unspoken guilt. At one point, my sister nudged me and whispered with a grin, "You look nice tonight. Finally wearing something fun, huh?" I forced a laugh, but Ethan's eyes flickered toward me just for a second. The look in them was complicated, not inappropriate, not even curious, but full of conflict. Shame, confusion, maybe even worry. I felt a pang in my chest that I couldn't explain. After dinner, when everyone moved to the living room for dessert, he disappeared outside to the porch. I hesitated for a long time before following. He was sitting on the steps, hoodie pulled over his head, looking down at his sneakers. The night air was cool, filled with the soft hum of crickets. I stood there for a moment, unsure what to say. Finally, I took a breath and sat beside him, leaving enough space between us to not make him uncomfortable. "You've been quiet tonight," I said gently. He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "Just tired," he murmured. His voice was barely audible. I could sense he wanted to escape the conversation, but something inside me wouldn't let the silence swallow us whole. "You know," I began carefully, about earlier today. "I know it was awkward." He froze slightly, his fingers tightening on his sleeves. "I didn't mean to walk in," he said quickly. "I swear, Mom told me to check if you were coming, and I didn't think." His words tripped over each other, fast and shaky. I placed a hand on his arm to stop him, just lightly. "Hey, it's okay, really. You didn't do anything wrong." He finally looked at me then, and I saw the guilt written all over his face. His eyes were glassy, and his lips trembled just a little. "I just feel bad," he said softly. "I shouldn't have, Ethan," I interrupted gently. "It was an accident. These things happen." I tried to smile, to make it lighter, but my heart hurt seeing him carry that much weight over something so small. For a moment, we sat there in silence again, the porch light flickering above us, the faint scent of rain in the air. I could feel the tension slowly melting, though something deeper lingered, something unspoken, a kind of emotional fragility neither of us knew how to handle. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, spilling a warm glow across the kitchen floor. I was making coffee when I heard footsteps behind me. It was Ethan, still in his pajamas, hair messy from sleep. He looked hesitant, like he wasn't sure if he should say anything. I smiled softly and offered him a mug of hot chocolate instead. He took it with a quiet thanks, his voice low, almost shy. The silence between us wasn't as sharp as before, but it was still there, an echo of the awkwardness that had shaken us both. He leaned against the counter, staring into his cup. "Aunt Sarah," he said suddenly, his tone nervous. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded, bracing myself. He hesitated, fidgeting with the handle of his mug. "Yesterday, when I walked in, I thought you'd be mad, or that you'd think I was being creepy or something." His words stumbled, raw and uncertain. I felt a tightness in my chest as I turned to face him. "Ethan, I was never mad," I said softly, "just surprised. I know you didn't mean to. I was just embarrassed, that's all." He looked up then, his eyes filled with relief and something else, an emotional vulnerability that comes when a young person realizes adults feel fragile too. "I didn't know adults got embarrassed," he said with a small, unsure laugh. That simple sentence made me smile genuinely for the first time since the incident. "Oh, trust me," I said, stirring my coffee. "We just hide it better." He chuckled, and for a brief second, the tension dissolved completely. But then his tone shifted, softer now. "You looked really happy yesterday, before I walked in," he said, different. "I've never seen you dress up like that." His observation caught me off guard. I didn't know whether to feel touched or self-conscious. I was trying something new, I admitted. Sometimes we forget who we are, and we need little reminders. He nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "You looked like yourself," he said quietly. The words landed deeper than he could have known. For years I've been playing safe, fading behind routines and responsibilities. That small comment from him, so innocent, so genuine, felt like a hand reaching through years of self-doubt. I blinked back unexpected tears, turning to the window so he wouldn't see. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. He smiled, sipping his drink, unaware of how deeply his words had touched me. As the morning light grew brighter, the awkwardness that once hung between us had turned into something gentle, a quiet understanding. We both learned something in that small, accidental moment about respect, about perception, and about how easily silence can turn into fear. When he left to join his friends later that day, he paused at the door, gave a small wave, and said, "You should wear that skirt again. It suits you." I smiled, the kind that warms from the inside, realizing that what had started as an uncomfortable misunderstanding had unexpectedly healed something I hadn't even known was broken.